A function is a special relationship between input and output for each input is related to exactly one output. A typical example for a function is grinding engine. In grinding engine, when the grinder pour fresh tomatoes, he is expecting exactly output. When he pour beans, he is expecting to be out. He cannot pour tomatoes and beans, is not possible. Blender. We want to use the blender to grind tomatoes. When you pour tomatoes, you are expecting grinding tomatoes. Not when you pour tomatoes, you are expecting millet or beans. So for each input, there is an exactly output that is expecting. So in mathematics, a function is a rule. A function is a rule that assigned to each element in the set called the domain. Exactly one element in the set called the codomain. What are the sets? Either is natural number, that is the set of the inputs, integer is the set of the inputs, or rational number is the set of the input, irrational number is the set of inputs, or real number. Because natural number is inside integer is inside rational numbers, and rational number, all the set is inside real number. Irrational number is inside real number. The bigger set is real number. That is why anytime a function is defined, the domain, that is the input, as the blender has its own input. There's no way you put wire inside blender. There's no way you put ports inside blender. So for each machine, there is an input that's supposed to be inside. So for this function, the input here is numbers. It can be real numbers, it can be, but real number is the bigger set. That is where real number is mostly used in function. So if x is coming from real number, for any input from, that is for any input from x, f of x will number again. Another typical example in real life, assuming Joy was born on 12th December. So every on 12th December, Joy will celebrate birthday. There's no way Joy will celebrate birthday on 12th and Joy will celebrate birthday on 12th November. That is what function is saying. That f of x, Joy is born on 12th December. So f of 1, if I put 1, there is no way I will have 1 and I will have minus 1 again. There is no way f of 1 will be 1 and f of 1 will be minus 1. There is no way Joy will be born on 12th December and Joy will be born on 12th November. So for exactly one input, there is an exactly, for each one element in the set called, that assigned to each element in the set called the domain. F of 1 is the domain. The input is called the domain. Exactly one element in a set called the codomain. Exactly one. And there's no way you put one element, then two elements will come outside. This is the typical example to this. So exactly one element will give exactly one output. There's no way one element will bring two outputs as 2, f of 2 to bring 2 and bring minus 2. So another example of function is when you are given a quotient. F of s equals to 1 over x minus 1. Then this is f of x. X we don't know. What is x? Where x is coming from? Of course, we are in mathematics. X is a number, and I specify real number. X is, that is, the input is coming from real number. If the input is coming from real number, there is 1 in real number, 0, 1, 2 to positive infinity, minus 1, minus 2 to minus. Then when I put 1 here, Here will be 0. 1 over 0 is undefined in mathematics. It doesn't make sense. There's no answer for 1 over 0. So for this function to make sense, to be a function, look at the definition. Rules that assign to each element. The rules in mathematics said you cannot divide by 0. So for this function to be a function, x must not be 1. For all x in R, you remove 1. So this is when the function is defined. So for every element in have f of x. Because when I have f of 1 does not have an answer. So, and for every, a function is a rule that each element in the set called exactly one element. So f of 1 does not have value. That is why we restrict f of 1. So for this function to be defined, f of 1 must be removed from the domain. So for any value 1 over 2 minus 1 is 1 over 1, which is 1. F of 2 give 1. F of 2 can never give any other answer again. Apart from 1, can never be 2. That is, f of 2 give only one value to be 1. F of 2 can never give another value in what? In real number. That is, Joy birthday is always on 12 December. Joy birthday can never be on 12 November, or it can never be any other day. Another example is when f of x is equals to square root of 4 minus x. 4 minus x. Any square root of negative number will give a complex number in mathematics. But if you press it in calculator, it will show error. So what will make this inside the square root to be negative? Anytime you set the inside the square root to be bigger or equals to 0, then you solve for x. That value of x will tell you what x must not be. Then this is minus 4. If you divide both sides by negative, the greater than will change to less or equals to 4. That is, the value you put in this square root should be less or equals to 4. Anything that make it to be not to obey this relation, there will be a square root of negative in this function. So when x is less or equals to 4, the square root of what is inside is always positive. So when x is 3, f of 3 will be square root of 4 minus 3, which is 1. If x is more than 4, x equals to 5, f of 5 will be square root of 4 minus 5, which is square root of minus 1. And minus 1 is going to be a complex number. For that, f of 5 will not have value. So in that case, there are a function for which the input equals to 5 and f of 5 is not in real number. F of 5 is in complex number, which we call x is coming from real number. X is called independent variable. That is, x changes. Y with f of x is the same thing as y. Is depending. Y is depending on what x puts. Independent variable. Like engine, is what you put that the engine will work on and bring it out. So what you put on x is what the f of x will work on and will bring out the value. So y is the independent variable, x is the independent variable.